Hello everyone, welcome to my music theory lesson. This is lessons 9.4 and 9.5, variation. In today's lesson, I'm going to show you the different ways to write variations of melodies. The types of variation are inversion, retrograde, augmentation, diminution, mode mixture, modulation, expansion, and ornamentation. Inversion means to write a phrase upside down. To invert a phrase, pick any starting note and then from there on, use the same intervals between notes but change the directions. In the example shown, I chose E as the starting note. The second note in the original is a perfect fourth below the first note, so the second note in the modified phrase needs to be A, which is a perfect fourth above the first note. The third note is a major second above the second in the original, so the third note in the modified phrase is a G, a major second below the second note. Retrograde means to write the phrase upside down and backwards. To do that, you first write it backwards and then write an inversion of it. In the example shown, you start by writing the phrase backwards, which means that you write the last note of the original phrase as the first note of the modified phrase, the second to last note of the original phrase as the second note of the modified phrase, and so on. Then, you write an inversion of the phrase. Augmentation means to multiply all durations by a constant factor, which is usually 2. In the example shown, all of the notes in the modified phrase are twice longer than the corresponding note in the original phrase. Diminution means to divide all of the durations by a constant factor, which is usually 2. In the example shown, all of the notes in the modified phrase are half as long as the corresponding note in the original phrase. Mode mixture means to write the phrase using notes diatonic to the parallel key. In the example shown, the original phrase is in D major, so the modified phrase is written using notes diatonic to D minor. Modulation means to transpose the entire phrase by any interval. In the example shown, the modified phrase is a diminished fifth lower than the original phrase. Expansion means to add to the phrase, keeping all of the original. Usually you want to add enough music to double the length of the phrase. In the example shown, the parts that are from the original phrase, the first two measures and the last two measures, are boxed in red, and the part that I added, measures 3 to 6, are boxed in green. Ornamentation means to decorate the phrase. To do that, you add extra passing and neighbor tones whenever you want. In the example shown, I added extra passing tones between the second and third notes of the second measure of the original. I also added passing tones between all of the 16th notes in the first beat of the third measure. The last note also has an extra lower neighbor tone. All of the extra passing tones are circled in red, and the neighbor tone is circled in green. You need to learn all the different ways of varying melodies that we talked about in this lesson, and the best way is by practicing. Once you are fluent with the methods of varying phrases, you can start writing variations for any melody. Let's try it on the next slide. Type of variation. Inversion. The modified melody is upside down of the original melody, which means that it has all of the same intervals between its notes as the original melody except in the opposite direction. For example, the second note is a minor third lower than the first in the original, and the second note is a minor third higher than the first in the modified. Write a diminution of this phrase. Correct answer shown. This answer is correct because the duration of each note in it is half the duration of the corresponding note in the original melody. Conclusion. In this lesson, we talked about the ways to write variations of melodies, which are inversion, retrograde, augmentation, diminution, mode mixture, modulation, expansion, and ornamentation. For more practice, please download my music theory app. In the next lesson, we are going to talk about melodic analysis. See you next time!